This is One-on-One. David Kearon is Director of Adult Services at Autism Speaks. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Check out our website, by the way, folks. We've done a lot of programming, not enough, on autism, a whole range of issues. But the issue you're here to talk about is more specific. You just told me before we got on the air about half of all children with autism wander.
Yeah, that's right. Based on the research, we know approximately half of people with autism will wander. It is more common in childhood, but for some of those folks, that behavior will continue into adulthood as well.
Why is it a problem?
Well, you know, people with autism in some cases have kind of a lack of appreciation for danger, for their personal safety. And what we know is, unfortunately, 90% of deaths that occur as a result of wandering amongst children with autism is due to drowning. So unfortunately, so many of these episodes end in tragedy.
So, does Autism Speak work, do you work to try to stop them from wandering?
We have tools to help try and prevent wandering. We also have other tools that are designed to help first responders and families better respond to cases of wandering as well.
Play out what often happens, which is not good, and what you're seeking to have happen.
Yeah, I mean, in so many of these cases, to add a kind of extra tragic level, it's often, you know, home with mom and dad or with an older sibling who just loses attention for maybe a minute or two, and that's enough time for a child to slip out the door. And by the time that caregiver realizes what's happened, that child could be anywhere. And what we see in so many cases are, you know, they may go to neighbors' homes. In most cases, they're drawn to bodies of water, whether it's ponds, reservoirs in the neighborhood, neighbors' pools.
Do we know why?
We don't fully understand why. There's some theories as to, you know, some people with autism are what we call sensory seeking. So they're seeking out something sensory about water, whether it's visuals or the way it feels. But they're, you know, regardless of the reason, we know that's the #1 danger in these situations. And that's why we try and coach families and first responders search there first.
So when you're training law enforcement professionals, what is the training, A, and B, what is the goal?
So part of the training is certainly on those kinds of first steps when you receive a call of wandering, or elopement is another term. Identifying, you know, important information about each individual, because they're all different, right, Steve? And I know you understand that from some of your previous reporting. But we want to know, will the child or adult respond to their name, or will they not? Will they be able to report back to you their phone number or their home address? Do they have favorite parts of the neighborhood that they may more likely be heading to? The most effective practice is to have that information at the police station well ahead of time. We encourage parents to go introduce their children with autism to first responders and officers in the neighborhood.
To what degree, and again, a lot of this we learned from the programming we've done on autism, to what degree are we as a society getting more aware, more empathetic, more understanding, and frankly, more effective in dealing with autism?
You know, I think in some ways we certainly are. You know, an organization like Autism Speaks, we spent much of our first 10 years trying to raise just simple awareness.
Right.
And I like the words you use, because we've moved on from awareness, now promoting acceptance and understanding, you know, truly including people in the community. I think we haven't taken the next steps necessary. What we see too often, for instance, in these wandering cases is their own neighbors don't know that they have a neighbor with autism who tends to wander. And there's some degree of shame, or there's some reason why parents don't feel like they can talk to their neighbors about this. You know, it can be much more effective, and it should be part of your kind of emergency plan to make sure all of your surrounding neighbors know your child and know his or her tendencies and know what they may respond to or may be averse to. That kind of thing is the next step of truly accepting and understanding differences amongst people with autism.
Real quick, go back to law enforcement. Are you finding that law enforcement overall, by and large, gets that there's a problem that they need to be part of the solution for?
Yes, I'd say largely most law enforcement agencies are eager to get this training. They've had unfortunate incidents where they misunderstood someone's unusual behavior. Maybe
he or she may be drunk.
Yes.
And therefore, or whatever.
Or suspicious. They can't look me in the eye. They're not answering my questions the right way.
Well, they can't look you in the eye.
Right. It's a manifestation of their disability.
And by the way, we should be clear about the spectrum again. Before we let you out of here, we don't want to make communicate that autism is just this one thing. The spectrum, again, if you were to describe it?
Yeah, so, the spectrum is, at one time we thought, I think it was two-dimensional. And at one end, you had the guy who could work at NASA and design and build rockets. On the other end, you had the person who would never live independently, may self-harm, and will never speak. Those people certainly exist, but the spectrum is actually a much more complex, three-dimensional, multi-dimensional construct. And we have people with different kind of profiles, different sets of strengths, but also certain challenges. And we have people who are working in very high levels today, but many who need lifelong supports.
Well done, David. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Catch you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons PC, the Northward Center, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, TD Bank, Johnson & Johnson, St. Joseph's Health, and by Georgian Court University. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.